Welcome back to another episode of the Vault Podcast. I am Cameron Brown with My Vault Media. This is my buddy Ardy here today. Ardy's going to be guesting on our podcast today, talking to us about photography, fine art stuff, his journey, a little bit of background on him, and all of the stuff that is enrolled in all of that stuff. So, hopping right into it, Mr. Ardy Wunder, would you like to introduce yourself a little bit? Give me a background on you.
Hey guys, so my name is Ardy. I am a fine art photographer. I am mainly based out of Winchester, Virginia. It's an absolutely beautiful, beautiful area just over the mountain, over that way, I think. I don't know.
Over that way?
North is some direction.
Yeah, something like that, right?
But, it's out in the country. I used to be a city kid, grew up around here, grew up not too far over in Alexandria. I'm just going to keep making up directions. I think it's that way. Yeah, so I moved out to the country for college, and I just discovered, country life is just, it's so serene, it's
Feels
so
good.
Peaceful. Yeah, I think it's, honestly, I get so much inspiration from living in Winchester.
Okay.
And I think that is a lot of what has fueled my career to this day.
Very cool, very cool. When I moved out to Winchester for college and stuff like that, I was appreciative. I like a good bit of nature. I think it's the peace and quiet for me that I like a little bit more about that. I'm not a big city guy. I don't like a lot of hustle bustle, people and cars and everything buzzing all at once. So for me, that was one of the selling points for going to school at Shenandoah, along with, obviously class stuff and summer school and everything like that. But that's pretty tight, man. Talk to me a little bit about, obviously, you were saying in that sentence how you get a lot of inspiration from being out in nature and doing all that stuff. So talk to us a little bit about your journey in photography. We know about you, but how did you get into photography?
So that's kind of a funny story because when I was in high school, I actually dated a girl who was a photographer.
Oh,
Still
I remember
is a
you telling me
photographer.
this.
Yeah,
she's
she's wonderful. Oh
Okay.
my gosh. I always thought it was the dumbest thing in the world. She was doing photography in high school, was going to the darkroom, and I just thought, who would ever want to be a photographer as a career? And yeah, here I am, guys, absolutely loving it. So I got to college and I actually studied music for a little while, and then I studied business and I ended up graduating with a degree in marketing. So I was doing that for a while. I was doing, I was working for a marketing agency for a little bit. I worked as a marketing director for it was a radiology group.
Okay.
And I was doing all of their medical marketing, so stuff like that.
Okay.
And hired this team called Altamira, who I actually now work for. Hired this team, Altamira. They came in, created incredible content, and I realized that I was just bored sitting behind the desk. I was so bored. All I was doing was pushing paper around, pushing pencils around. I was able to make creative decisions for the company,
Right.
but I wasn't able to actually be the one to execute it on any of that stuff.
Yeah, nothing really hands-on,
exactly.
in the field.
I would be bringing in Corey and Ross and Nick to do the videos and the photos, and I'm thinking, man, I want to be doing that stuff. That is so much more fun. So one day, a friend of mine actually double booked herself. She was a photographer. So she hands me her camera. Well, first she texted the group chat and she said, can anybody just take my camera and go and shoot the boys tonight? Because it was her friend's band playing. So took the camera. I said, sure, why not? I'm going anyway. Love these guys. They need some photos. So went on to YouTube. So I said, yeah, let me go on to YouTube. Let me look up the rule of thirds. Let me look up a couple of techniques, guidelines, anything that could help me out, because this is literally me just going at this for the first time. I've never had so much more fun at a show. And I love live music. I go to a lot of live shows. I've never had more fun, ever.
Damn.
And it was so easy to talk to people. It was, because everybody was coming up to me, it's oh, hey, you're a photographer. Can you get my photo? Never met so many people at a single show in my life.
I'm sure that was such a breath of fresh air from and there's nothing against office or desk jobs, but when you're someone who's a creative or he said it, not me. He said it, not me.
At a desk.
When you're someone who's a creative, or someone who just likes to have more hands-on work, whatever that may be, being at a desk job, because I've been at that kind of situation before too, where I was a front desk admin before I was doing this full time, it just gets very crampy. It feels very just bleh, you know? So I'm sure for you, like going literally from like being in the office and like making the decisions, but like decisions can be made through email or through call and stuff like that, to then being like straight in like a concert environment. That was like night and day, I'm sure, you know?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I think that it's very, very important to know yourself. And knowing myself, I know that I get bored very, very easily. And that's why I love shooting so much, because I've got something in my hands. I'm always doing something, and I'm able to create the entire time that I'm there. Whereas, you know, if I'm sitting at a desk job, what I found was like I'm bored. You know, I'm sitting there, I'm browsing Reddit, I'm not doing what I'm supposed to be doing, and...
Also not turning on this microphone.
Wait, are you serious?
Yep.
I thought it was on the whole time.
It's all good. We have my microphone on, which is blue, I'm pretty sure. Yep. So we're getting audio from mine at least, and we've got you in there. But now we've got Ardy's microphone, guys, so you can hear him loud and clear. Here's a nice, beautiful voice.
Sorry, pressing buttons is just way too complicated for me. Well, I'll tell you what's not complicated, switching to coffee number 2.
All right.
And that brings us to our sponsored post of the day.
Dunkin' Donuts. America runs on Dunkin', and so does Cam and Ardy. Dunkin', if you see this and you happen to view my channel while it's early, now would be a good time to do a small little sponsorship investment. I don't really need any money or anything, honestly. Just coffee or a free donut here and there would be really nice. Appreciate you guys. Okay, back to the scheduled programming. As you were saying, my friend.
What were we talking about?
You were discussing the concert photography and then...
Knowing yourself.
Yeah, I was going to say your feelings and everything about that, right?
Yeah. Guys, you have to know yourself, because, you know, for us to be happy in this world, we have to do what we like, right? And if we can get paid to do that, I mean, those are the keys to happiness. Those are the keys to success, right? So, my buddy, he's a wonderful accountant. Guess what he loves to do? Accounting. He's pretty fucking happy. I can't understand like how he does it, because like he'll sit down and he will just like, he's like a bulldog. He just sits down at the computer. He opens Excel, cracks his knuckles, and he just like goes to town. And then he comes out and he's just like, all right, what are we gonna do with the rest of our day? If that were me, I'd be sitting there going, I'm going to bed. I'm done. I'm not doing anything else.
I can kind of relate sometimes for some editing projects. If it's something that I'm really invested in, or like that I've really been wanting to try and like dive into, that I can be like, all right, I sit down, I crack my knuckles, and I'm zoned in for the day type thing.
Yeah.
But it's funny that you're saying like you have to know yourself, especially like without even any cue or anything, because we have some more stuff later that we're going to talk about in relation to that. But like, it's such an important thing that I think a lot of people that we're trying to connect with and reach with this podcast really don't quite comprehend, is that like being comfortable with knowing yourself and then actually like believing in yourself and being confident in that stuff and like fully accepting that of you is so important for being able to like progress, you know? And for you, you're someone who is a very like A/B person. I feel like you're very like, oh, I'm gonna do it, cool, it's done type thing, you know? You don't really question a lot of things. There's not a lot of intrusive thoughts, at least to my knowledge, that are going on of like, if I do this, is it gonna self-implode? Am I gonna mess this up? Am I gonna blah, blah? There's not a lot of stuff going on like that. But I know there are a lot of people out there who do have those thoughts to, you know, the nth degree, or sometimes even just in a minuscule way. And like, even just that little bit can like throw you off, you know?
Yes.
But again, I just wanted to touch on that because again, it's so important to be able to like know yourself as one, but then also be comfortable and like believe and support yourself in the journey that you're trying to pursue, you know? Yeah.
I think it's funny that you said that, you know, I do seem calm, cool, and collected on set, but trust me, that is not what is going on up here. But the thing is, like, you do have to take risks, and that did take me some time to actually learn, is if I take a risk and I tell my client, hey, we're going to do something a little funky, we're going to do something that's like, you know, might not work out, they are on board most of the time. You know, it's not all clients are the same. But I find that a lot of clients have a lot more confidence in me, especially like if that idea works, then they have all the confidence in the world. They will do whatever you ask them to because they trust you at that point. Yeah. So
definitely. We just had an episode of that. Me and Ardy just shot a wedding together not too long ago, like a couple months ago. Wedding turned out fantastic. All the clients loved the photos. They loved me and Ardy working on set, all that stuff. But you actually did that with the cake. if you remember. You
Yeah.
literally were like, I got an idea, and you had this like wild, like freaking just crazy look in your eye. But like me knowing you, obviously, I was like, heck yeah, let's give it a try. Like I'm 100% down for it. And then obviously the clients knowing me and seeing you work on set that day, they were like, okay, what do we need to do? You know, like, and obviously the clients not being, you know, our wedding clients and stuff, they were off doing wedding stuff and everything, but her friends and her bridesmaids were more than happy to help with moving the stuff that we needed to get the cake shot outside. Yeah. And lo and behold, like you said, it turned out wonderful.
And you know, I actually felt completely insane doing that.
I'm not gonna lie, dude, when I was rolling, like, so this is a quick little backstory on that, like, the shot that we did, and it was great. We're gonna plug this in there because it's definitely, I got the wedding album still. We're definitely gonna plug it in there. But the shot that we did was literally just Ardy going, yo, like, we're inside and inside's great, but like this cake is so beautifully designed and the look and the aesthetic of it, I want to put it outside because we just have a beautiful outside area as well. So I'm like, okay, what are we gonna put it on?
Yeah,
and he's
and
like,
why would you move the cake?
Yeah, literally, and I was like, also, why are we moving the cake? Because if we drop that, like, we are screwed, bro. Like, that is terrible. But, of course, I feel like you were kind of baiting me, too, because you were like, I want to move it. And I was like, why would we move the cake? Also, what are we going to put it on? And that was, like, your little trap door right there, because your eyes were like, I found a tree stump. So we rolled this giant tree stump down the freaking hill, and we set it up in front of the lake, like out in front of the lake and stuff like that. We were just getting a couple different angles and stuff. I think we had the bride's friend carry. She baked the cake.
She made it, yeah.
Yeah, and so we had her carry down the cake and you know make sure it was in safe hands for cake carry.
And
purposes.
I was really happy about that because like I was just thinking this is either going to look incredible or I'm gonna drop this and I'll have a hell of a story.
Yeah.
So when she carried it, I was like, great. There's only upsides from here.
Insurance right there. But yeah, whole point of that is that he took the risk. You know, both of us took the risk with that stuff. But it was a risk that we obviously believed in, you know, and that Ardy was confident and I was confident in Ardy with and stuff like that. And it turned out fantastic. They actually really, really loved those cake shots, in addition to the ones where they're like smashing in each other's faces.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yes, those were good. And in contrast to that, if an idea doesn't work out, the fact that you're honest with your clients and saying that like, hey, I want to try this. Hey, it didn't work out. Let's just move on. They're just like, oh, okay, cool. Because that kind of trust is really going to go a long way with your client. Yeah. Because they're not like, do you ever go somewhere and then somebody's like, you know, and when I say go somewhere, I mean like go to any kind of establishment where you're buying a product or service and then the person on the other end is being like either shady or you feel like they're not telling you everything. I don't want to be that guy because like I don't ever want to give off those vibes. I mean like when you're a wedding photographer, like you've got to be these people's best friends. That
trust is huge.
Yeah.
Trust is huge. You know, on a lot of jobs in particular with our work, but weddings especially, trust is very, very big. It's something that I don't quite think. I think a lot of like couples understand it to a certain extent, but I don't quite think that a lot of people who are thinking, oh, like I'll just hop out and shoot weddings, maybe thinking that all the time. Like you got to remember, you're capturing these people's like lifetime memories. Like,
yes.
That's a big job, you know. Like, and you at least as the person capturing, want to make sure that you're listening to the couple, that you're vibing with them, you're connecting with them, and that you are going to be able to accomplish, you know, capturing their story for the day and delivering something that they'll be happy with, you know. So it's huge.
I'm actually really, really glad that you brought that up because that kind of like segues into something that I've been thinking about lately, and I've completely changed the way that I actually shoot my weddings, and I'm talking about like literally like within the last 2 months.
Wow. Okay.
So one of my best friends, I was in her wedding, and you know, of course, like the other photographer was there. I was trying my best not to be that guy and be like, "Well, so what you shooting on? Oh, I'm a photographer too."
Trying not to be the photo geek and all that stuff.
So like, I just have like my little like pocket point and shoot, and that's like all I had with me all day. So after taking like a bunch of shots, just like with my camera, and like, and it was all on film, so it was not all great. It was like some like absolute gems, other shots where like, you know, it was just like somebody's like in the middle of a moment, so like they've got their hands in a weird place, they've got like this like facial expression that's in between two completely different facial expressions.
Some fun candidates here and there.
Yeah. But we had so much fun laughing over
Mm-hmm.
those photos. And like, I remember there was this one where the composition was so funky and so accidental, but so perfect. And I'll have to, and please remind me to send you this photo.
Yeah, drop it to us so we can plug it in
like
here.
everybody's making a weird facial expression, but like the photo just feels so
Authentic?
authentic. Yes,
Yeah.
that's exactly the word that I was looking for.
It's something that I really try to chase with like
Yeah.
a good bit of my content, because some of it you obviously want to be a finished, polished product, and like for those jobs or for those deliverables, like that's the goal, and we chase that. But for a lot of my stuff, what I've found, like, you know, whether it's professional or whether it's just me having fun and stuff, authenticity is just so good. Like, it just feels so good to deliver that stuff, because you're connecting more than like just quality to the job.
Yeah.
You know, you're connecting feeling and experience, and like that is like, when you give someone a good experience with that stuff, that is like next level.
Yes.
Like, I feel like that's the level up of being like a solid photographer, videographer, you know, whatever it may be in that space, you know.
And you hit the nail on the head earlier, saying we're capturing once in a lifetime moments for these people.
Yeah.
So like when I looked at the photos that the professional photographer did, they were great.
Yeah.
Great photos.
Mm-hmm.
But you could tell it's like, oh well, hey, he was the photographer there. He didn't know us that well. He was cool.
Yeah.
Really, really liked him. Actually, like I have his card and been, you know, like just sending a couple of messages on Instagram back and forth. But it was still like, yeah, he was the photographer and he took the pictures. Like, you know, like it was of us and everything. But like when we looked at the pictures that we took, we were like, oh, this was so much fun. You know, like, so that started changing the way that I shoot my own weddings. And one of the first things that I try and do when I get there is learn every single person's name. And then I want to become a part of the friend group as soon as possible. Yeah. Because like when I start doing that and people like start getting really, really comfortable with me, they come to me and say, and that is the same thing that happens when you're a friend with a camera at a party. Your friends come up to you and it's like, hey, come over here, take a picture. Oh, let's get a picture of you. Oh, like, yeah, like we're gonna go do this, we're gonna go do that. And like once you can get in there, all of a sudden, you're not just taking these kind of like, for lack of a better word, cold photos that like somebody else took of you. Yeah. Now you're looking at these photos as like, do you remember Ardy?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Like, yeah, like he took such great photos for us, and like, and he was in there, like, you know, like he was like, you know, like having us like, you know, do crazy stuff, and like, and it all looks so good. And so when you can deliver a gallery that looks like a friend shot it for you, but it still looks like fine art. That's it right there. That's the perfect wedding album.
That's fire, man. That's so cool. And like, what's crazy is, before we hopped on camera, Ardy was telling me, he was like, yeah, like I'm trying to figure out how I want to like communicate, or like how far I should go into certain subjects, and you know, yada yada. Basically, and again, not throwing you under the bus or anything, but basically just being grounded, but also not fully like, you know, stepping up to his potential. As you can hear from Ardy just describing like his approach to the craft in general and how he goes about trying to make an overall experience and finished product for each one of his clients. He's a professional. Like, Ardy's a pro. He knows what he's doing. That's exactly why I asked you to be on here, man, to talk about this type of stuff, because these are things that people need to know, or that are looking to find out about everything that we do, or other creatives can use this type of information and apply it to their own crafts. Entrepreneurs, you know, all that stuff. Like, this is all part of growing yourself and stuff like that. So thank you so much for sharing that, man. That's fantastic.
Yeah, absolutely.
Seriously. Let's go. I think you answered a bunch of these bullet points. We've got like a little script over here that we can follow to stay on track with our topics. But Ardy's just been rocking and rolling. You talked a little about how you got into your first couple of jobs. So you talked a bit about like the concert photography, all that fun stuff. We crossed that off.
Oh wait, before we move on from that,
okay.
Quick tip. You probably already know this.
Drop some game.
The first money I ever made was...
Ooh, yeah, let's talk about this. This is fun. Yes, yeah, let's talk about this.
I would go to community events with my camera and a bunch of cards, take pictures, hand them out. So many jobs just for doing that. It was 2 hours of my time. The marketing was essentially free. All it would cost was the cost of my time and the business cards. Great way to get started.
And I am applauding you, because thank you for bringing that topic in. That's a wonderful topic to talk about. We're going to dive a little bit into that. Not too much, but we will, shed some light on that area because I know that's definitely a topic that a lot of people struggle with. Is like, okay, I have this idea. I want to do it. How? They don't know where to start or how to kick things off or how to get the ball rolling. And a lot of times it's so much simpler than like what people make it out to be. I think they look at like people who are more established. And so they're like, oh, I am a starting videographer and I want to shoot for Sony, because they see all their favorite YouTubers shooting for Sony or something like that. So now you're this person who just bought your first little APS-C mirrorless camera. You have one lens, one 64 gigabyte memory card, and then you're now trying to reach out to one of the biggest brands in the world, and you're like, please look at me and my pictures of my flowers and my dogs. Like, that's not always the best way to start. Look, if you can do it, then swing it. Like, if you got that power, if you got the charisma and the swag to just walk in there and nail that, all power to you. But a lot of times, there's so much more simpler methods for starting and getting your name out there and getting the ball rolling quickly. Like you just mentioned yourself, you literally went to community events. So these are free events, I'm assuming, like in your community where
block parties.
I was going to say block parties, cookouts, concerts, like you were saying before, like all these different things that are going on that are already happening. And if you show up there for free, especially with like a photo, like a camera or like, whatever, and you just start providing your service for free, a lot of people aren't going to turn you down unless it's like there's someone else that they've got designated there. And even when they do, as long as you're not getting in the professional's way and you're just kind of interacting and having fun with people, they usually don't mind, But that is a fantastic way. Marketing's free, like you said. You just go there, you get to connect and interact with people. So not only are you handing out your card, you're also connecting on a face-to-face basis.
Exactly.
So they're getting to know you. They're getting to like feel how you are, how you communicate with them, how your presence is, all that stuff. Which again, you mentioned for the way that you're approaching your weddings and stuff. That's one of the first things that you do when you walk into a room is you try to get to know people by name and connect with them. So that's huge. And then on top of that, you're taking the picture. So now you have your own portfolio material that you can then come back, post on your website or on your Instagram, tag those people. Like, there's so much value out of such a simple act in that,
Exactly.
So, huge.
And it's no risk, because guess what? If you mess up...
Yes, that's another one. Exactly, no risk. If your photo is blurry, or if you didn't know your settings for that outdoor shot or whatever, it doesn't matter, because you were out there for free, and nobody's going to be mad at you that you messed up that photo, besides maybe yourself.
You should be mad at yourself. Get it together.
But seriously, like, there's so many simple ways of starting. That's still a method that I will use from time to time if I ever feel like I want to network into an area that I'm trying to get into, fresh or something like that. Sometimes I'll just show up to like local stuff around like our area. We have farmers markets all the time. And if I see a business that I'm like, ooh, I want to connect with that business. They look cool. They make good looking sandwiches or something.
Yeah, and that's like an advanced version of doing what we just talked about, because you've got a great portfolio already. So you can go to those professional establishments now. Like, it's not Sony yet.
Tell them, Ardy.
But once you get the sandwich shop, then you get Apple Federal Credit Union, then you get X, then Y, then there's Sony right there.
Exactly. It's really awesome that you talk about building off of that, because this is a technique that pretty much anyone of all skill levels can tap into. You can be a complete beginner, you can be, intermediate to like established like us, you can be, a DP on the Marvel movies or whatever, and you can even be doing it to whatever extent. I don't know why you do it if you have all that stuff, but there might be something,
movies and going out to the little Winchester fly.
Bringing the RLX out, shooting some community stuff. Heck yeah, man. But
it's like nobody knows it's James Cameron.
Yeah, literally, nobody knows. I'm just showing up and shooting a movie. But like the whole point is like it scales, and you're never too good or too inexperienced for this type of technique. The whole use out of scaling it, like how Ardy was just touching on, you start at your basics. So you go out, you do your jobs for free, you collect the portfolio material, you post it, you interact with the community, you network, all that fun stuff. Now you've got yourself a little base, and that's like step one. You can then take that base and then go to your next community that you're trying to branch into. So let's say you want to get into car photography or something. Chick-fil-A every Friday, I think it is. I don't know if you've ever been to one. I don't know if you're a big car guy, but my dad's a big car guy. Mm-hmm. Every Friday or some weekend day or something like that, they have old car meets where, like, at the Chick-fil-A lot, everyone brings their old vintage cars.
That's pretty cool.
And they're, like, cool vintage cars, like old freaking, like, my dad has a Thunderbird that he is trying to get out there and bring to all those stuff. People have old Jeeps. They have old everything, literally, like all the classic ones that you would see on TV or on video games and stuff. They bring them out and people network and just show off their cars. You do that same concept at these vintage car shows, and now you are that guy or that girl walking around, taking videos, taking pictures, or doing your service, whatever it may be, and networking with those people now. And now you've got your little base portfolio that you can then, like Ardy said, show off to these people.
Yep.
And they're going to go, oh, okay, so you do take photos, you do take videos and stuff. Actually, yeah, I was going to take my car out for a spin. What do you charge? So now it's no longer a matter of, oh, I'm doing this for free.
Exactly.
Now they're going to see you're established with your little base, and they're going to probably ask you, or at least see you in a light of, this is a professional, or this is someone who does this.
Yeah.
Yeah?
So let me get... This has been debated for a long, long time.
Okay.
I've heard a lot of people say you should never work for free. Should you work for free when you're first starting out?
Oh, specifically when you're first starting out.
When you're first starting out, yeah.
So my intake on that is yes. I think you should volunteer to work for free. And there's a number of different reasons as to why I back that claim up. The first reason is before you even get a paycheck, you should be looking to gain experience, you know, because... And like, I can understand why some people may have the argument of like, no, I don't want to work for free. But at least coming from myself and from, you know, other people who are like-minded in that area, so you or other peers that I have in this space, a lot of us do what we like to do because we love it. You know, we want to be good at it. We're passionate about it. That's something that like fuels us, wakes us up in the morning. So like, there's a drive behind it besides monetary value. So where I'm going with this is I first started out doing free to fee projects or just free projects in general because I wanted to learn things like how to use my gear, what to expect when I was in certain environments, how to interact with clients, what worked and what didn't work, and what types of clients I even wanted to interact with, that type of stuff.
That's
before I had added pressure of like, you have to deliver this, you know, type of thing because someone's paying you, or, oh, this is not only being paid for, but this is also going on our website or to our other client that we're going to use to like sustain our business. Like, there's no external pressure with that stuff. Exactly. A lot of times you get the chance to get in there and like just be, which is so important, I think, at least for someone who is trying to do more than just get dollars.
Yeah, it takes the stress off.
Exactly. Yeah. The other thing is obviously with that knowledge that you're then acquiring, whether it's skill knowledge, whether it's like business knowledge with all that stuff. Now, when you move on to step 2, when you're trying to go for fee projects, because obviously that's part of the game. We want to get some of those obviously at some point in our career because we want to sustain ourselves, right? So now I'm more calculated when I go into those spaces. Now I know, okay, when I did this free project, when I shot, I don't know, a cookout or something like that, neighborhood cookout, right? And it was nighttime, and I did my nighttime settings. This didn't work out so well. When I did the second one that I did, these settings worked much better. Now you're going to feel way more confident approaching clients in different scenarios with that knowledge. And obviously the nighttime cookout is just one example, but it could be you interacting with corporate clients versus like event clients who are usually a little bit more laid back. It could be you just getting comfortable with your gear, knowing, oh, with my 24-70 lens, I can shoot 24 and it gets about this much space in these environments versus 70, which is good for this much of a zoom on these types of environments and spaces. There's so much more that goes into all of those things. Yeah. And I'm sure you can attest to that, you know?
Yeah. And I'll provide the counter argument, even though I definitely do not believe in it. I think that you should work for free. Of course, not all the time, but I think you need to provide a proof of concept.
Yeah, there's a balance.
Yeah, because photography is not cheap. Mm-hmm. So why would you go to somebody and say, hey, I want $500 to do this? And it's like, who are you?
There you go. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So, yeah, provide that proof of concept. Now, the counter argument to this is that, well, this gear costs money. You need to recoup that money.
Mm-hmm.
And that's really like the first. This is how little I think of this argument. Really, the only good counter argument, because I mean I've heard these counter arguments, but I think so little of them that I can't. I didn't even commit them to memory.
Right.
But the one that I can remember the most is, well, you have to recoup the cost of your gear. How long does a camera last you?
Yeah. I could
years.
Yes.
Like, and if you're not one of those guys who like needs to like change his camera all the time.
Yeah.
Like I shoot on an R6. The only reason that I'm not still on my R, which I bought 3-4 years ago,
right.
is because a buddy of mine, he's shooting a ceremony.
Yeah.
His camera goes down.
That's crazy.
What do? His only backup was a Canon 6D original from like 2007.
Jesus Lord, a dyno.
Yeah, this happened last year.
That's
so
crazy.
he's like, I'm sitting there, and I'm editor. I'm sitting there and I'm editing, and I'm like it's just like there's something was off. It's just like the image quality just like went.
Yeah.
And I zoom in and I'm like, what's going on? It's like did I just like lose like a ton of resolution? What's wrong with my computer?
It's like going from people who don't shoot, other creatives who may just be watching this. That's literally from like going from wearing your glasses to just ripping them off.
Yes.
Just normal
Exactly.
Like there's a very big difference there.
And so I'm like, Corey, what's going on? He's like, dude, my camera died. I had to use my 6D. So we went from a 30 megapixel sensor from 2018.
That's literally nuts.
To a 20 megapixel sensor from 2006. So obviously a little bit of a quality drop. But then that got me thinking.
Couple years.
What if that happened to me?
Mm-hmm.
What if my camera goes down? I didn't have another camera. I was, still somewhat early into the full-time game.
Right.
Like, because I've only been full-time for 2 years now. So I thought, I better go get me another camera. Yeah. And so I got a Canon R6, which is the best wedding camera ever.
Yeah. I remember you telling me when you snagged it too.
Man, I love it so much. But, I digress. The point is, like, cameras last you years and years and years.
Yeah.
Their shutter, okay, so like Canon will rate their shutter count for like for the Canon 60 Mark IV. Canon 60 Mark. Canon 5D Mark IV. Rated shutter count of 150,000 shutter clicks. Sydney, Corey's wife, who shoots with us, she has taken that thing to I think 600,000 clicks.
Oh shit!
She just got it serviced.
It's like the Toyota of cameras.
Yeah, no, and they said the shutter is well used. And they replaced the shutter, they replaced the buttons. The 5D Mark IV is generations old. She's still using it. Yeah. And honestly, she's a better photographer than I am. Like, she gets amazing images. Don't tell me I need to recoup the cost of my gear. You need to get better, my guy. That's what you need.
Yeah, it's not always about the gear. And like I can be on par with that and understand the claim for that, because obviously if I'm out shooting a lot of my jobs now, I shoot with my Ronin 4D, which is my cinema camera, and that's a really good run and gun rig. It's got a gimbal built into it. It's super high quality. It can shoot up to 6K. It's got a full cinema sensor in it, like just all the bells and whistles, really, really awesome camera. So if I'm out shooting with that for clients, then yes, I expect to recoup the cost of that quality gear.
Yeah.
But if you're just starting, which is what we're referencing here, if you're someone who is looking to do free work with that stuff, or even honestly, if you were someone who's experienced and just trying to get into a new field, you gotta understand that recouping the cost of your gear in this particular scenario isn't the forefront thought. It's more of a long game.
Not what you should.
It's more of a long game thought process, in my opinion, because the long game obviously is, okay, sure, I could recoup a quarter or a third of the cost of my gear with a $500 job that I'm going to argue with or whatever, or I could really try and get some solid portfolio examples or make some solid connections in this industry, which are then going to give me, $3,000, $5,000, $8,000, $10,000 more down the line, And at least that's my argument with it.
My first camera was the Canon Rebel T6i. It cost $800 with the kit lens, and it took me a year to recoup the cost of that initial investment. An entire year. And now, yeah, but now I'm living off of not that same camera, thankfully, but you're right. It is the long game.
It's long game.
That's what's going to get you there.
It's kind of touching on what we mentioned a little bit earlier, which is like why it goes against the argument of never doing free jobs in the first place, quote unquote. The whole point in doing free jobs is like it is part of the long game. It's one of the first steps, as you guys can hear. I love barking in the background. It's part of the long game. When you do a free job, that's you gaining value. I like to use the word value as opposed to money or experience, because value is all encompassing of all those things. Value, no matter what, is something that you need when you're approaching an experience, whether that is you learning how to use your gear, whether that's you gaining monetary value, whether that's you gaining knowledge, whatever it may be. You want value out of something. If you're looking for value in those things, your head's in the right space. You're always going to be moving forward with it.
I'm so glad you said value. So adding value. So let's say that you are that person who's starting out their photography career, any kind of creative career, honestly.
Yeah.
And you're starting to get into kind of like those next few steps.
Yep.
Let's say that you are that person that's starting out, and you're charging, relatively very little for your services.
Yep.
The way that you can actually increase that amount is by adding value. I work with this incredible photographer out in DC. She's living out in San Francisco now.
Dropping gems. Go ahead, Ardy. Tell them.
But she...
this is huge.
She was a wonderful mentor. I mean, she taught me so many things, but she taught me a lot about adding value. She provides a very boutique experience for her clients. I mean, she does very few a year. I think she's doing less than 15 weddings per year now, so that she can really, really focus and provide a personalized package and experience for every single couple. So we're talking, she gets this gorgeous wooden box made, and it's got the couple's names carved into the wood on top.
Wow.
You open it up, there's a beautiful photo album. There's dried flowers from the day of.
Wow.
I mean,
from the day of. Wow, that's awesome.
Yeah, this is an experience. And then a little thumb drive with a digital version.
What was that word again? What was that again? It was a
thumb drive?
No. No.
Guys,
No.
Brand new technology.
Oh, I'm keeping that. That is perfect. Brand new, groundbreaking 2023 technology. A thumb drive. No, the experience. That's what I was keying on. There goes that word again.
Yes.
Experience. Go ahead.
Think about how can you add value to your clients?
Mm-hmm.
And that there are a million different ways to do it.
Again, why I brought him on here. Ardy knows, dude. This is something that I practice literally on the daily. Literally on the daily, job by job. Even if I'm not out shooting, editing in, Lightroom or whatever, Adobe Premiere Pro, adding value overall is one of the keys to the king. It's one of the infinity stones, literally.
I like that.
If you add value, you are always winning. And this is huge for anyone trying to start. As long as your goal is just to try and help the client, that's it. It's cyclical, it's that value that you put out into the edit for the photos, into shooting on the job, into communicating what their needs are for this shoot, or even in whatever other entrepreneur, creative aspect that you're doing. When you put that out, it comes back.
It does.
People want to help people that help them. At least most people do. There's some people who are bad, and we know that. But most people want to help people who help them. Yeah. It's just the way it is, So value is huge. Hearing what you were talking about with the wedding photographer who has flowers the day of. Dude, I've never heard of that before.
Right?
But the sentimental value, the experience that creates for her clients, no wonder she can shoot 15 weddings a year.
And live off that comfortably, guys.
Yes, that's huge. That's stuff that people don't even think of. But she's someone who's obviously passionate about what she does. So the value that she's providing to them, everything from her actual skill set to the quality of her gear to the experience that she's creating for them on set and off set, is just unmatched in her category. Like, that's insane, you know?
Yes.
Crazy stuff. I'm so glad you brought that up because that's huge. People need to know about that. We can dive more into that later. Let's talk on a little bit more on these things. I wanted to talk about this because Ardy is a perfect person to talk. Perfect person in general. Just look at him. He's killing it, you know? But a perfect person in general for this specific topic. So this is something that we get a lot, specifically for photographers. So photographers out there who are considering trying to get into the field in any aspect, I know something that's always hard for you to kind of like navigate is looking at freelancing versus looking at working salary. Okay?
Yes.
So,
yeah.
Ardy, talk to us a little bit about this. Tell us, because you're someone who's worked on both sides of the coins. You've done salary job, and then you've also done freelance job and stuff like that. Tell us some pros and cons of salary versus freelance. Tell us some of your likes and your dislikes of the two of them, and talk a little bit basically about your overall experience with both of them.
Guys, your experience is going to vary. I promise.
Huge.
I mean, salary versus freelance. That's one of those where, again, you gotta know yourself. How responsible are you with money? If you're me, go get a salary job. Don't try to do it.
Honestly.
I'm so bad with money, guys. Go get a salary job if you're like me. Now, like, I fit into this area where I hate working for somebody else. It's another reason I could never work at a desk job.
Yep.
And I love freedom way too much. I love being able to wake up at like 11, go off, you know, run some errands. I might not start my editing until like 7 o'clock at night. And I'm sitting there until like, you know, maybe midnight. And then I'll stay up until, you know, like maybe until like 1 or 2 playing video games, go to sleep, just do the same thing. Do it again. And
so this is a huge pro of your freelance, like your current career right now, because with freelance, something that a lot of freelancers, I'm sure, like when they first hop into it and experience, they're like breath of fresh air type stuff. Like you get to set your own schedule. You have way more control on a lot of the variables of how you work. You know, like you were saying, wake up when you want to, edit when you want to, do things when you want to.
Exactly.
You know,
and so that's the freelance side of it. And the thing is that being serious now, you really do have to be good with money. I had to do this. I had to actually go in and set up systems for myself so that as soon as I get a check, 30% immediately comes off the top for taxes. Another 20% immediately goes away towards savings. And then it's that last bit that I can play with. In the beginning of my freelance career, I was spending all that money.
Now see, like this is interesting because the first topic that we talked about with this is your control. So this is definitely a pro of freelance and a con of salary. With salary, you're working for someone else. Like you said, I don't like being told what to do. So obviously with salary, you're being told what to do. You're told, they're being told, hey, you're working these hours to these hours. You're showing up at this place, doing this job for us. It doesn't matter if we give you 10 jobs or if we give you 1 job. You have to do all those jobs, and this is what we're paying you hourly. Hourly, sorry. So that's like the difference in terms of control versus no control in freelance and salary.
Yes.
Now we're diving a little bit into money, and I love that you're going this direction because you were saying you have to be very careful with your money, and like you literally put a whole system into place that like helps guide you on how to manage your money. Why is it that you have to be so careful with your money as a freelancer?
I'm a very carefree person. I just like...
So this is a personal answer from Ardy.
Yes.
We'll hear what he has to say, and then we'll give the overall pro-con of the next category, which is money. So dive in a little bit.
All right. This is going on a little bit of a tangent, but I'm a big believer in designing your life for what you want it to be. For everybody, that's going to be different. In my perfect world, the only thing that I have to do when I get up is take photos. That's it. That is it. So when I have to start thinking about all the other stuff, like, okay, well, I gotta think about money, because if I want to design that life, then I have to finance it, you know? And so I have to go through all these different systems of making sure that I can do that. I can design my life to do that. So like, you do have to be really, really good with money. And if you are like me and you want to design a life for yourself where you're really just doing the things that you want to when you want to, you gotta work hard. Nothing comes for free. You have to sit down and you have to tell yourself, like, yeah, I am one day going to get to that, but first I have to do X, Y, and Z to set that up. It does not just come. You can't just say, hey, I'm going to be a freelance photographer and now I get to sleep until noon every day.
Yep.
It just doesn't work like that.
Yep.
I had to hustle my butt off for years and years and years before I could sleep in until noon. I mean, and now whenever I have so one of my favorite parts of my job is going off and doing lifestyle shoots. Generally, those are 12-hour days and usually you got to fly there. So it's a lot of work. It's a lot of standing on your feet, and it's a lot of creative work too. I mean, I talk about creative buckets a lot, and you really, really drain a creative bucket working for 12 hours a day with a camera in your hand, trying to make incredible images one after another with the creative director standing over your shoulder like this, breathing and going, but did we get the skyline in the back?
Way more than I think a lot of people, even us, us being someone who does this on a regular basis, I'll get off a job sometimes and I don't even realize how much I've drained mentally and physically lugging around the camera and trying to create on a consistent focus basis for 6 to 8 hours at a time, It's draining.
Yeah, and then I think, I say this, I say this all the time, when I was in college, I was working a serving job, 18 credits, an internship. Where did I have all the time to do? Where was the energy to do all that stuff?
Literally,
Because now I'm just woo, shot a wedding today. I'm gonna go sit on the couch.
Literally, and just relax, which is again, it's part of that it's part of that control that you have when you're able to do freelance and stuff like that. Salary, you have a little bit of that because you at least have hours that you know, all right, when I'm off, this is my time to do what I want to do type thing. But if you have a day, for example, where you're not shooting, you can wake up and rest that day. Or if you have a big wedding day, the previous day, you can purposely schedule nothing on your schedule the next day so you can rest. Whereas if you're salary and you have a big event at work, boo-hoo. The event happens and they expect you to be there 8 a.m., 7 a.m., however early you start for your shift the next day. Looping back on the money thing, because I want to make sure that people understand the pros and cons of this. The money for this, why you have to be so careful with it, leads us to our next pro versus con of the two of them, which is stability. Now, as a freelancer, I can personally say myself, once you get in I guess your vibe, so to speak, or you're rocking and rolling, you settle in, I guess is the best way to say it. Stability never really pops into my mind as concern, because I'm so used to doing what I do that it just feels stable, and it is stable.
And I've seen you build really, really good habits.
Thank you.
And you've been doing it for a while, so.
And I think a lot of people build them as they settle into whatever it is that their business may be doing. But stability is another big one that I think a lot of people struggle with when they're first looking to jump into one field or another. Because obviously with the 9 to 5, okay, I work 8 hours a week, 8 hours a day, 5 times a week, and then I get my paycheck every 2 weeks. So guaranteed, this amount is coming in at this time, every time this month, There's no questioning that. Whereas with freelance, especially when you're first starting out, it's okay, I got $500. There's still 30 days left in the month and my rent is $1,800. That is scary for a lot of people to look at, and the idea of getting more jobs, again, especially when you're just starting out, is not as feasible to people. So I can understand where that comes from, but it relates back to your topic of, you have to be careful with your money until you build those habits and until you get really settled in and stuff like that. Because again, you're now your main source of income. It's only you that has your back. There is no 9 to 5 giving you the paycheck regardless of what's happening. And it's just you,
And clients aren't always going to pay you on time.
Yes. That's another reason why you need to have those habits.
Yeah, you got some clients are net 90, which means that they're going to pay you 90 days, 3 months after you've completed that work.
Yep. Now you can negotiate, obviously.
Yeah, it's
depending, and that changes. If you don't want to work with that client, you don't got to work with that client. But there are times when I've had 5-figure contracts, and 5 figures is that's a chunk. That's good company money that I need for my company, my life, my bills, all that stuff. And they'll say to you 3 times or 2 times in a row, unless you've got your contract in order, or unless you've got a trusted relationship with you, we're going to pay it, but it comes at this time.
Yeah.
And then it doesn't come at that time. So like, again, if you're the type of person that's just going out blowing your money as soon as you get it, or you're not really watching your dollars and like allocating things appropriately, that's going to be a problem.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
January is coming, guys. If you are a creative and it is the end of December, January, February, no, times are slow.
Yep. And that happens. But tips with that and stuff like that, knowing your market and stuff like that, that's another kind of pro versus con for freelances versus salary. Is like, salary, again, it just kind of goes into stability where like, even if it's slow, you're still collecting a paycheck type thing. But with freelance, knowing that, okay, this time of year for these types of jobs or whatever and all that type of stuff is going to slow down versus pick up and all that stuff. That's another something that you have to consider when you're going into the two. Salary, no matter what, it's happening. So again, it factors in stability. Freelance, you've got control to move how you want to move and stuff like that. Like I know personally myself right now, in December and January is when I do a lot of planning, content creation, and like back end stuff that like I don't even have a chance to touch when it comes to other like months of the year because I'm so busy. So yeah, huge stuff. Any other like main pros or cons that you can speak on for your like salary experience versus like your freelance experience and stuff like that?
Well, I'll say this. I know that, no, this isn't necessarily my case because I'm very, very lucky that I work with a team of photographers every single day. So I do get to interact with colleagues and coworkers, but I know that freelancing can sometimes get lonely, and that and having a salary job, you got colleagues that you can come in and talk with every single day. And I made some really, really good friends at my last salary job. So my salary job was at Shenandoah University. I was a photographer, videographer. And so having that salary job at Shenandoah University was really, really nice because I had benefits. I mean, that is huge. I mean, the kind of insurance plans that you can get with an employer versus the kinds of insurance plans you can get individually are vastly different.
Very big. Yeah. It's funny that he brings that up. I actually literally was just, I just got my health insurance yesterday.
Doing it now,
literally, I'm like, it's major differences.
Yeah, and I really, really do miss that. And I'll tell you how much I miss it. My dentist is now out of network.
Oh,
I love him so much. I'm paying for it. I'm going back. That guy was awesome.
Oh, dang, bro. Yeah, that sucks. That's another thing to consider, obviously, is like health insurance or like just benefits of like having that stuff tied in with salary is just huge. You were just talking about, how you felt like it can be lonely sometimes.
Yeah.
That's another thing to consider that I think is always swept under the rug with like the psychological or the mental aspect of these things. That's huge. Like, people don't always consider that stuff in everyday life, but specifically in when you're going into salary versus freelance, you gotta have a certain mindset, like confidence, approach to, believing yourself, all that stuff, resilience when it comes to that stuff, because freelance, again, you're out there, like, it's just you. Salary, you got a company, you got people that you can talk to and rely on and stuff like that. You also have a guaranteed income that, like, unless you're getting fired, you know that check is coming in. So even if you did have a hard week, you still have got your check, you still have got your job, all that stuff. A hard work for freelance can be, all right, I went to a job on Monday, my car broke down. Now I gotta pay for my car. I went to these other 2 jobs Tuesday and Wednesday. The clients were complete assholes. So now I have to deal with that, come back, and I'm arguing back and forth with them on deliverables and trying to get an agreeable product that's way more time than what we already paid for and stuff like that. Thursday and Friday, more headaches and stuff like that. So now it's like you're down money, you're feeling crappy, maybe you're exhausted and overworked, all that stuff. And then sometimes like there's other elements that like you don't even think of, but you gotta have a certain mindset and approach to it that keeps you grounded and pushing forward.
Exactly.
You know?
Yeah. And it's definitely going to be different for everybody. I feel like I'm going back to this for the 3rd time. You got to know yourself. Like my buddy that I worked with my last salary job at SU, we actually talked about this quite a bit because, I mean, like he knew I wanted to go freelance so bad. I really, really loved working for SU, but I just didn't have that kind of control that I wanted. I wanted to have full control over my set. I wanted to have full control over like who's there, what's being used. I want more time. I want this. I want that. And I knew that the only way that I could get all of those things is if I were running my own show.
Yep.
And I talked to him a lot about a lot of that stuff because I liked working with him. He was a good guy, and I said, like, if you want to join my team, like, let's do it. And he likes the stability. He doesn't like having that unknown variable of like, yeah, I got $500 and rent's $1,800. What am I gonna do? Yeah. He would much rather have that salary and know that he has a paycheck at the end of the day.
Yeah. And that's fair.
Yeah, and that just comes down to knowing yourself.
Yeah.
And knowing what's going to make you happy.
Yeah, that's fair. There's nothing against freelance versus salary, obviously.
Yeah.
You know, like you can do whatever one is most comfortable. The whole point in discussing these topics is just to make you aware of them. Because again, a lot of this knowledge I know it's hard to try and figure out by yourself, especially when you're looking at something as big as like a potential career choice. And you're like, okay, I got my camera or I got my, my materials to start my journey into my space or whatever. But like, okay, I don't even know where to begin. I don't know if I should try and apply for jobs in Indeed or if I should just try and find people who are looking for my services and do that stuff. Like that stuff's tough. And that alone can be enough to discourage people from even trying in the first place. So again, the whole point of it is just making this information available, sharing some of our experiences with you guys, and just helping any way that we can to try and make this a little bit more feasible and accessible for people and stuff like that. Because we want everybody to win. We want people to pursue their stuff and get out there. And if you've got any questions or anything like that, don't hesitate to reach out and ask us. We're more than happy to help you. What the hell just happened? More than happy to help you. There we go. Yes. We'll make sure to put Ardy's handle in the description and everything. Check out his work and his portfolio. He's a fantastic photographer for that stuff. And obviously a great resource, as you guys can quite easily tell. And then you can always reach out to me as well. I'm more than happy to help any way that I can. So that's pros and cons and everything like that. Let's switch gears a little bit and let's talk a little bit about your current creativity and philosophy of shooting. I think this is an interesting topic to dive into as we kind of close out our podcast and stuff like that, because in your journey and in developing yourself, in knowing yourself, part of that process, I think, is really figuring out what parts of it are like you, what you resonate with, what makes you like, Yeah. So like for you had mentioned a little bit earlier that like you just changed your style of like wedding photography, your approach to that and stuff like that. Talk to us a little bit about like how you came about changing your style, like what made you want to, and like how in general you think that other people who are trying to do this part of the process can find their like creative feel or like their juice, their vibe. Talk to us.
So it's a process, and I can probably give a very, very rough outline of how to do that. And I mean, to put it simply, you got to be a student of the game. I mean, you got to sit on the ice and watch the game tapes afterwards. And I mean, I am like kind of like, I'm making a joke out of it, but like I'm absolutely serious. You got to sit down and like look at your past photo albums and really, really critique them. Go through and say like, am I really proud to show this? If a client were to come up to me right now and say, hey, I want you to shoot my wedding, what can you show me? What of your work, an entire collection, because there's a difference between a curated collection of a bunch of different photos from a bunch of different weddings showing off a bunch of different things. Hey, that's great. That's cool. Those are your best shots under your best lighting conditions. What can you do when the lighting is not ideal? What can you do when the weather sucks? Like, you have to go back and look at those albums and think to yourself, how happy am I with these and how did they all come out? Because once you can do that, you can identify the weaknesses that are in your game.
Learn from yourself.
Yes. One of my biggest weaknesses, and not just from yourself actually, also from other people. There are photographers that I follow on Instagram whose work I look at constantly. And anytime
I feel
that
like everybody has that.
yeah,
you know?
and anytime that they share a full album, I go to that album immediately because like I want to see exactly like like what is it that they're doing. And the big thing that I see from other photographers that I want to get better at is that very, very authentic kind of photo. And, and when I say that, I'm talking about photographers like Leah Stankus. She's a West Virginia photographer, absolutely incredible. Every one of her images has so much pure, raw emotion coming out of her couples. I don't know how she does it. She's incredible. Another one of my favorite photographers, Samuel Elkins. He gets, oh my gosh, he's got to be like my favorite photographer in the world. Sam Elkins does absolutely incredible work, incredible composition, incredible tones. I mean, this guy's been shooting for like a decade since he was like 16. I mean, this guy is such a pro. But he gets that authenticity out of his images. My style is a combination of that authenticity where, and to give a little bit more of a definition to that word, I'm saying these are candid shots where the camera isn't necessarily being noticed. It's not, nobody's looking at the camera.
Yeah.
The couple is just vibing, having a good time, and you're there to capture that almost as if you're not even there. But combine that with fine art. And I know that those two things are somewhat on opposite spectrums, but I am determined to find the perfect coalescence of both of those things.
Why is that? And the reason why I asked why is because, like, I love you explaining your, like, feel and your creative philosophy and stuff like that. That's literally, like, it's huge, giving insight as to why you do what you do and stuff like that. But to help others learn, we know, like, your process. You observe your surroundings, you observe yourself, you learn from your past experiences. Why are you doing these steps?
I want to provide the absolute best experience. I want to provide the absolute... I mean, to be honest, like, I mean, I'm listening to myself and I know that kind of sounds like bullshit, but, like, it's, like, I really, truly want to provide the best photographs possible. Because one of the most amazing human emotions is nostalgia. People... I
agree with you. Wow, I love that. Yeah. I agree with you a lot, yeah.
And that's the business that we're in. People look back at their wedding photos 20 years ago, what do they feel? They feel that warm, sweet nostalgia. And
that's something I feel like a lot of people can relate to, even outside of weddings. I mean, like, it's the first thing that I think of when I think of nostalgia is Disney or like Pixar, you know, like they are masters at tapping into nostalgia for their audience. Like, there's something about a Pixar film or about a Disney movie that whenever you turn it on, whenever you hear that music, whenever you see it playing wherever you may be or something, it evokes that, like, feel good out of you, you know? So it's huge that you've keyed in and that you've, like, developed this process into helping you find your why, which essentially creates your creative philosophy, you know? The whole point that I'm gathering from it, I definitely want you to continue and dive into it, but, like, just kind of structuring it for people, the beginning of it is observing your surroundings and sitting down with yourself and dissecting what you do, you know? So, like, whether it's, you know, your past photos or your past creations or your past whatever, going back to those and learning from those experiences and from others and stuff like that to kind of culminate what it is that you want to produce or what you want to do. The next part of that is then attaching that and fueling it with your why, which is, for you, I want to create the best experience possible when it comes to this. It's why it's so important that when we mentioned earlier that you have to be passionate about what you're doing, because that's what's going to fuel you beyond monetary gain or beyond just one-step things with like, that stuff. So
if I were there just to make $1, I would just show up and I would be like,
that's it.
Cool, thanks guys.
You know,
see you later.
And it's nothing against anyone who maybe just wants to try this to get some money or get some extra cash. Like, go ahead, do it. You know, but, like, when we're getting into a deeper aspect of it and when we're trying to, like, further ourselves in this career or even find what career or what venture that we want to do, because sometimes this in and of itself helps you find out if you want to do this or if you want to go in another direction, all that stuff, right?
Yeah.
So finding those elements and stuff and then attaching them to your why is so powerful for helping you steer your direction.
Yeah.
So please continue. You were saying like the nostalgia and all that stuff. Like talk to them a little bit about that.
Also, this next thing I think is a little bit of a secret sauce.
Okay, lay it on us.
So,
do we get some free game over here?
I already know that like later on somebody's gonna be like, dude, everybody knows about that.
I welcome the internet trolls. Please come my way. All that is more views.
Start yesterday.
All that is more views, engagement, and comments for us. So please come on in if you want to. You might end up learning something by the time you're done typing your hate messages. But go ahead.
So, so going back to that like nostalgia thing, you know how when you think of a memory, and then if you can go back and look at a picture of it, let's say it's just taking like a picture with an iPhone or like whatever. You look back at the picture and it's not quite as glamorous as it might be in your memory.
Yeah.
That's where you and I come in.
Mm-hmm.
Because when we can combine that authenticity, that nostalgia with fine art, we can make that photo feel like that memory.
Yeah.
And then that just like when those two things come together, you got yourself magic.
Part of that I think a lot of people also don't realize, and I know like for you this is huge because you key heavily in the wedding photography industry and stuff like that. I like to shoot around and do a lot of different jobs and everything. But even for like other jobs in particular, part of it is like having someone like us to come in and really like match that to like what you felt in your head versus what you experienced in reality. The other part of it that I experience quite a bit, because a lot of times when I'm outside of weddings and I'm not actually capturing the memory, I'm creating the memory, or I'm creating the experience. So like, it's so important to be able to like tap into that, especially as photographers and videographers, especially is like, we're creating that product commercial that like the business wants their clients to feel when they have their soft drink or when they have, the McDonald's. Like think about when you see like a McDonald's commercial, like the burgers are juicy. There's like freaking burger sweat like coming off of it and everything. The soft drink has so many bubbles popping up in it. All the people are smiling no matter what the hell they're eating. Like it doesn't matter. Like it's this experience that McDonald's wants you to have or think of at least when you go and you like go buy their food. That's something that again, a true artisan or like a true professional in our respect, whether it's capturing the wedding photos and like attaching it to that actual feeling and memory, or creating that experience for the customer that may not even have that memory but you want them to have, is so important.
And I like that a lot of corporate clients are so. Actually, before I say this, I'm gonna take a step back.
I'm checking the cameras.
I don't even want to call it a trend because it's just been here for so long now, but having that more of a lower production quality ad, do you know what I mean when I say that, Cam? Like, a lot of companies...
And I'm here, I'm just a disembodied voice while I make sure our production's still running.
So a lot of companies, what they're doing is they're utilizing influencers. And what a lot of influencers do on purpose is they don't go out and buy a nice camera. They continue to use their phone because we're tapping back into that authenticity thing. I think you have to like pick your right tool for authenticity because like if you want to be authentic selling a product, I think like kind of having an iPhone is really the way to go for that. And I do love that corporations are taking advantage of that a lot more lately because I think it also expands room for creativity. It doesn't have to be the kind of sterile environment that we are so used to seeing in magazines and in ads, and everything is like perfect, like no noise, looks like it was shot at ISO 0, you know, like
there's a level of like expertise, I think, that has to be established outside of the camera with that stuff, and I agree with you that like sometimes the phone for certain projects or for certain goals is a better option. If you're trying to connect with viewers, and get them to like be relatable, in a sense, like then having an influencer who they follow and they like because they show every aspect of their day and they feel more connected to that influencer, having that influencer then show that product on their story or something, using it in their home or in their room or wherever it is that you usually see your favorite influencer, that's going to feel way more relatable and way more trustworthy than, you know, the high quality ad running with that stuff. Now, on the other hand, the high quality ad also has its place, because
it's still fun.
When you want that to now reflect on your company, a cell phone quality is probably not going to be your first choice. You know? Unless you're just a cell phone. Like, if you're Apple and you're selling your cell phone, Apple, then that makes perfect sense.
Wait, by the way, can we just like digress for a moment? And can I just like complain about that Selena Gomez ad that they did?
Yeah.
Now listen, Selena, I love you. You're amazing.
Yeah.
Only Murders in the Building, wonderful show.
Yes,
if you haven't seen it, go watch it.
Mm-hmm.
But they took so many liberties with that ad, making it black and white, using professional lighting. It's like, we're gonna hide all of like, you know, like the bad aspects of this camera.
That was something. I think that was one of the only things that I was like, not like bitter about, but kind of like, come on, guys, you could have like, I'm like, you could have at least told them, because like a lot of people like, it was smart. They marketed the music video and the ad and stuff like that, shot on iPhone. And they do that a lot, which is great, because it's like, damn, iPhone can make that type of stuff. Strong if there, you know your settings, you know what you're doing, you have a professional on site who can monitor and use this equipment appropriately, you have professional lighting. All of this stuff still factors into the fact that it is still a camera.
So what you're saying is, if you have an iPhone camera and $1 million budget, you can get those same results.
There we go. And that is the icing on the cake. Yes, I totally agree with you on that. The notion behind that is like, I think people see, you know, the finished polished product. And I think even photographers and videographers are guilty of this at times too, where like, I'll see something that was shot on Ronin 4D, you know, or, you know, you may see something that was shot on Canon R6. And you're like, I can get that because it's the camera. But you also have to know all of the stuff that's happening outside of just what's focused in that lens for that image, you know?
Exactly.
It's so much more that goes into that when you're hiring a professional, you know?
And that's actually why I recommend carrying one of these with you everywhere you go. So this is my...
This is the plug. The affiliate link will drop below.
Alright, so second sponsorship post, Fuji, thank you so much. So this is my Fuji X100T. I absolutely love this camera. It is small enough that I can just throw it over my shoulder. I can take it literally anywhere. It's got a flash on here, so party photography is super, super fun. Like seriously, I love taking this to like friends' functions and then just like snapping a bunch of pictures. And the best part about this, do you guys remember how I said I don't like sitting at a desk? I don't like editing. And the most amazing thing about this camera is that it has these film simulations, or emulations that they call them.
Oh yeah,
within the camera. So you can say like, I want it to look like Fuji Superior. I want it to look like Portra 400. I want it to look like XYZ. Whatever you want. And the camera does a beautiful job of doing it. So so right before this podcast started, I was complaining that a photographer who shot a wedding for us shot everything in JPEG. Big no-no.
Yeah, it's okay.
I only shoot this camera in JPEG. It has raw capability. It does. It's got the raw capability. But the great thing about it is the film emulations look so good. I can just shoot it in JPEG. I send the photos straight from this camera to my phone, no computer involved, and it looks great. A lot. Have you seen any of the photos on my fine art Instagram?
I think so, yeah. I follow your fine art Instagram.
Half of them came from this. They're JPEGs, my guy.
They look great, though.
They're not even RAWs. They're
JPEGs have the time and place, you know?
Yes. But an even more important reason for carrying one of these things around is because you're going to train yourself. This is a cheap camera. It's fixed lens. It has a 23 millimeter lens on it. It does not come off. It does not zoom. It does not do any of those things. It is a very, very basic camera. And the great thing about it is it trains you to shoot on something very, very basic. It trains you that you can do anything with whatever you have. And we've all been in a situation where you see some incredible light somewhere, you're driving, or you are, you're walking somewhere, and you see some incredible light. All you got is your iPhone. Well, sometimes it works. Sometimes that's great. But I always have this on me So anywhere I go, if I see a really cool photo, I can snap it immediately.
Yeah.
And then I'm not walking around the rest of the day going, that would have been a banger. Could have posted
Wish I would have had it.
Yeah. And it
should have, would have type situation.
And it comes back to being a student of the game. How can you be a student of the game if you're not carrying your tools around with you everywhere you go?
Yeah. I mean, honestly, the saying that I hear circulated a lot before we kind of close out and, do our final remarks and everything is like, the best camera is the one you have on you.
Yeah.
And I think that...
So make it a good one.
Yeah. Carry around a Ronin 4D everywhere you go. And Ardy and I in your trunk everywhere you go. But I think that it's so important to key in on that and mold it to your own workflow, philosophy, all that type of stuff. Because obviously certain jobs call for certain tools. That's exactly what cameras are specifically to us, is tools, But I think that it also helps people move past the thought that like, I can't do this job if I don't have this gear, or I can't do this passion project or this whatever. And this goes for not just us, but just for anyone. I think it can be applied to really any like creative or person trying to get in there. It's like, for us, the tool is cameras. For you, the tool may be, like maybe a set of art pencils or something, or it might be maybe a laptop or, whatever it may be that you're trying to dive into. Just start. Mm-hmm. Just try, like use what you have. If you don't have the best cooking, spatulas and knives and utensils, then just give it a go with like what you've got in your kitchen. If you don't have the highest quality camera, shoot it with your iPhone. I see so many people shooting with iPhones nowadays, and I think it's so freaking cool. I'm glad that the cameras are advancing in smartphones because me personally, I'm like, I like having higher quality BTS shots and stuff like that for a lot of my jobs. That's what I use my iPhone for majority of the time, is BTS stuff, social media stuff, Instagram, TikTok. I also like having this for things like when I go on vacation. It's super convenient to have a high quality like 4K vlogging camera or like capturing just for fun memories camera, whatever it may be, in my pocket that I can readily access instead of having to pack, another something if I'm trying to travel light, or if I need to use that space for something else if I'm going somewhere that requires like winter clothing or something. I remember we went to snowshoe not too long ago to do snowboarding and skiing and stuff, and like winter clothing takes up a lot of space, bro. It's huge and puffy and big, and so packing your clothing items takes up a lot of room very quickly. And like trying to pack camera gear also takes up a lot of room very quickly. So again, having this is just, it's convenient for like when you want to do stuff like that, and just use what you got.
I've always thought it was funny. I had 4K 60 on my phone before I had it in my professional camera.
Jesus Christ, that's because you shoot Canon. That's why. That's because you shoot Canon. Canon does not care about their customers in any way, shape, or form when it comes to video capabilities with that stuff. They said, look, we got the 1DX. That's what you got. Just use that. It still works. Which the 1DX is the beast, but still. Come on,
I called them on the phone one day, and they told me to fuck off. They said, if you have questions about stills, call us. Otherwise, go fuck yourself.
Yeah, goodbye.
But there's one thing that I really want to mention. Because you had talked about just start. Yes. Mm-hmm. Just start. Make crap. Make shitty images. Yeah. Do it. Like whenever I start out on any gig, my first 10, 12, 20, whatever shots are garbage.
It's funny that you say that too, because one of my mentors for the photography studio that I used to work for, he would literally say that. He was just like, look, when you first get a kid in front of the camera and you're about to take their picture for the school pictures and stuff like that, the first couple ones are going to be garbage. He's like, because the kid's nervous, maybe your settings aren't quite right for the environment, you're not fresh off the thing. He's like, they're going to be crap. Yeah. So just shoot them. He's like, get them out the way. I'm more worried about image 5 or 6 or 10 or whatever as I'm doing that shoot with them, because now the kid's warmed up. Now I got to feel for what type of poses they like and what they don't like. Now I got to feel for the environment and the lighting that I can adjust accordingly if I need to. All that stuff, just start, And
listen to your friends who tell you that you're crap, because those are your true friends. You're gonna have as long as you're not saying it maliciously, don't ever do this again. No. Mm-hmm. There's going to be a lot of friends who feel like they're being very supportive, and they're also good friends. Mm-hmm. they're gonna tell you, yeah, keep going, you're doing great, you know, your photos are wonderful, they're fire. They might put like a bunch of like fire emojis, like, you know, like under your Instagram posts and everything. And yes, those are good friends, they're supporting you, but that's not really helping you. You need friends who are gonna tell you that image was shit.
Yeah, or hey, I feel like you could have done this better. Right
exactly.
here.
Yes. Yeah.
You
Be
know,
constructive.
like,
Don't just be like what I just said. Your images are shit.
Yeah.
No, be constructive. Say like, hey, look, this. You know, like I like how you edited this image, but you're double subjecting. It's hard for me to tell what the focus of this image is. Next time, if you do this, it's going to help the image out a lot. And now you've suddenly gone from doing a lot of these, like, you know, like these double subjected images, where a lot of people are, like, a potential client might look at it and they're going to say, like, oh, well, it looks okay. The other guy's is better. You could be that other guy. Because you know what? That other guy listened to his friend when he gave him really, really good advice to get his photos better, and he did it, and he got the job. I can't tell you, like, how many times I have run into photographers who think they are the absolute shit because their mom, their dad, their sister, their cousins, their friends all told them how good they are, and they're out here trying to charge like $2,000 like for, you know, for a basic shoot that they should, when their skill level is really calling for like $150. Like I'm talking. Listen, I'm not. This isn't a fake situation. I'm omitting names here. Like don't be that guy.
Yeah.
Listen to your friends. Take constructive criticism and enjoy the journey because it is a fun one.
Yep. Enjoy the process. Yeah, that's pretty much the whole name of the game. You know, like it's enjoying the process as part of the long game aspect of things. So if you're following those things, any of these nuggets in here and stuff like that, you're going to be hitting some way, shape, form of success in your journey and stuff. But that's all we got time for today. We appreciate you guys tuning in and listening to us and, you know, commenting, whatever you may be doing, reaching out to us with some future questions or constructive feedback, all that stuff. We really do appreciate all of it. So thank you so much, Ardy. Thank you, my friend, for coming out, being on the podcast.
Thanks for having me.
Ardy is actually the first guest in this new podcast setup. So the reigning title goes to Ardy. He's the first one who helped break everything in.
I want a belt.
We'll get you a UFC
big ass belt.
with Dunkin' and Starbucks coffee on the side or something like that. But yeah, guys, thanks again so much for watching. If you guys have any requested topics or anything that you want to see talked about or any requested guests that you'd like to see pop up on the podcast, shoot me a message and I will happily try to get to work on including those in our next episode. But yeah, hope you enjoyed. I hope you got some knowledge or some things that you can take and apply to your own self and your journey. And we'll see you guys on the next one.
Cheers.